Candace.
And I'm Ripley.
And this is Comicsplaining,
the show where we dive headfirst into a hiatus. That's right, this is our last issue with the X-Men title proper for quite a while, because at the end of this, the X-Men goes on hiatus. And I do want to apologize up front if my voice is a little bit scratchy. I've been fighting off some kind of cold or something, so that's what I'm dealing with right now. I'm sorry if I sound a little bad because of it. Also, we did our usual routine and got ice cream right before we recorded.
Of
so
course we
helped.
did. Because it's spring now, so all of the ice cream places are open.
Yeah.
So obviously we had to.
We're there are kids in fucking windbreakers and shit. And I wanted my brownie blast. Or whatever the hell it was I actually got. I didn't get the brownie blast. Anyway, yeah, we're here at the last episode with the X-Books for a bit. And we're going to be starting off with X-Men 64 from November of 1969. Written by Roy Thomas, pencils by Don Heck, inks by Tom Palmer, and letters by Artie Simek. Looking at the credits on the next page, it looks like Don Heck is filling in for Neil Adams, assumedly for deadline reasons, but who knows. Now, we're going to have to start this one off with some content warnings that I've been dreading having to explain, but if you're sensitive about topics including mid-20th century Japanese nationalism or nuclear warfare and its effects, you may want to take care with this one.
Skip ahead.
Yeah, skip past the first issue. I don't know how to signify that for you. Probably like 20 minutes or so on.
Probably.
If I had to guess, but yeah, you might want to miss that first one. So what happened last time we read X-Men?
Dear Lord. I forgot you were going to ask me, so I didn't bother to think about it.
Let's take a crack at it. The X-Men were already down in the Savage Land.
Oh yeah, the Savage Land. I forgot the whole fucking thing.
Well, they weren't actually there to begin with, but
Yeah, so they were there, and then Angel came to find them, but he died. So he got found by this guy and his giant frog, and this dude, the creator, took him to his lab and made him not dead, and also gave him a new outfit that looks better than any of his other outfits.
True.
The other X-Men were with Kazar, and Kazar didn't want them there, but since they were there, they helped him deal with some mutates who are causing problems and abducting people. And Kazar did not like the creator because he's abducting people and turning them into mutates. But he didn't just say that because that would be too simple. So Angel was on the side of the creator because the creator rescued him. So he went out to go tell his friends not to attack the creator. But they didn't listen. And they immediately got attacked by the mutates, which kind of defeated the entire purpose of sending Angel out to tell his friends not to go fight them. But okay. So
I need like 30 more seconds to hold these guys off. What have you got?
Right. So while the other X-Men and Kazar were fighting the mutates, Angel went back into the lab or whatever to go talk to the creator again, but it turned out the creator was Magneto. So Magneto explained how he's not dead and what's going on with him and what he's been up to. And
just catching up.
Yeah, just catching up. And then he exposed himself. He exposed himself to the X-Men.
It's canon, folks. Magneto exposed himself to the X-Men.
That's what happened. He did that, and then there was another mutate that he made, which was the only woman that he did, and her superpower was like entrancing men like a siren, because of course it was. Because if you're gonna have a single woman, obviously her fucking power has to have something to do with men, obviously.
Obviously.
That's the way that you write empowered women.
No shit.
So she, like, put the X-Men in a trance, but Jean was like, I don't like this, so she started throwing things at Magneto and having a temper tantrum. And he had a jetpack for some reason. And then things exploded and Magneto died, I guess.
Yeah, that covered most of it.
That's pretty much what happened.
I did want to add that Jean opened Scott's visor, and that's why things were exploding.
Yeah.
It wasn't just because she was throwing shit super good.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
It was a cool use of her powers.
Yes.
Resourceful.
The finesse. Alright, well, you've got us about right, so the X-Men are due coming home from the Savage Lands right about now. We open on the first appearance of a character who's going to dip out of X books from here on out. Sunfire, as he stands atop the cornice of a building, leering down at the unknowing passers-by down below. There's a bit of musing that I enjoy from Roy talking about how the X-Men don't get to know the relief of defeating Magneto because there's always something or someone else coming that just may be the end of them or the world, or both.
I hate Sunfire's mask. I've always hated Sunfire's mask.
It's terrible. It makes him look like a bug.
Yeah, his entire costume isn't great, but the mask is especially bad.
Yeah, the mask and the gloves. I mean, I get why the gloves are supposed to be like fire, but they're ugly.
They clash.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of his outfit is the
rising sun thing.
The flag of the Emperor, so not great, but, you know.
Yeah, but
for different reasons.
It fits for reasons we'll get into.
Yes.
So we open on the X-Men, finally back in their city base, which I'm assuming is that apartment that Scott was renting for whatever reason. Or at least some of the X-Men are here. Hank calls Bobby and Warren's attention to Cerebro as it chirps away, revealing the presence of a powerful mutant in New York City. Mutants? In my New York? It's more likely than you may think.
That's insane.
We gotta bring back the oldest meme in history.
Yeah.
Now, it should come as no surprise that the mutant they seek is the same guy we just saw, Sunfire. And he's hanging out around the UN, waiting to hear some sort of speech. Speaking up at the podium is a Japanese diplomat named Mr. Yoshida, and he's here to dedicate a monument to the youth of the world and the hopes that theirs will be lives of peace. He wraps up his speech. Sunfire finally shows himself in a dramatic way, declaring Yoshida a traitor and blasting the monument to rubble with a heat ray. The crowd reacts with alarm, trying to flee the madness as Sunfire demands that surely someone out there is brave enough to fight him. And he's right. At first, the crowds aren't entirely sure what to think of the X-Men coming to their defense, but it doesn't matter because one way or another they are here. Iceman momentarily knocks Sunfire off course, and while he's trying to correct himself, Beast leaps onto Sunfire's back, hoping that with his weight and the force of the impact he can force Sunfire down to the earth, but that's not to be. Hank's very restraint of Sunfire's hands gets him blasted pretty good in the face, and in alarm and pain, he lets go, clutching at his face as he tumbles streetward.
Oh no, poor Hank.
Yes, I know, he got burned.
Poor boy.
Poor baby boy. Warren can see how much trouble his friend is in, and he comes to his rescue, momentarily leaving Bobby to have to handle Sunfire alone. There are obvious problems with this plan, but Hank is plummeting to his death, so understandable. Bobby flings ice discs at Sunfire, but here's a fun fact about ice. It doesn't do all that well against fire.
No way!
I know, right?
That's insane.
I know. But it at least distracts him long enough for Angel to make his way back into the fight. Warren is busy trying to get this guy to explain a bit of what his deal is. But with the cops joining the fracas from down below, firing at Sunfire, Sonny's had enough of this fight for now, and we find he was really holding back in this fight against the X-Men as he flies off into the skies with a burst of speed that Angel's got no chance of catching up to. Soon thereafter, Warren helps ease his pained friend inside, where they find a concerned Jean and Scott, having apparently heard about the altercation over the radio. Apparently the X-Men have already taken some heat for this in the press, but Hank has taken a lot more heat, and after taking a look at his burns, Jean declares that they're going to be dealing with the rest of this Sunfire situation without him. Meanwhile, we learn a little bit more about Sunfire and what his deal is. Unmasked, Sunfire is known as Shiro, and he sinks down into a chair to talk about the situation with his uncle, who is apparently in on the whole deal. Momentarily, Shiro's confidence flags. He's not entirely at ease with his actions, but his uncle is fast to ramp his anger up by reminding Shiro, apparently a native of Hiroshima, of the horrors of the atomic bomb dropped there at the close of World War II. Now, at the time of the bombing, Shiro wasn't yet born, but he's been growing all this time under the shadow of that mushroom cloud and the damage that it did to his mother's body. A few years later, when Shiro was born, she passed in childbirth, though the implication seems to be that whatever damage she suffered from the bombing weakened her enough to cause her passing. And then this Uncle Tomo took him in, raising the child to a young man. As Shiro aged, though, Tomo began to suspect that his nephew was a mutant, and so he led young Shiro to the epicenter of the bombing, urging the youth to take the soil there into his hands, and when he does, his mutation begins to manifest. At the request of his uncle, he tries out his new powers, blasting off a heat ray into the already once-bombed Earth. Now that Shiro knows of his powers, he recites an oath that his uncle has etched into him since childhood. "I shall avenge the incalculable wrong done to my people in this place, these many years ago. I shall smite the eternal enemy, humble him with all the vast powers at my command. So do I, Shiro Yoshida, swear." So now we definitely know that Tomo has been shaping his nephew into a weapon for his cause, further evidenced by his running Shiro through some training exercises and presenting him with the Sunfire suit. And now that he's ready, Sunfire is ready to take his fight to the Americans, seeking revenge for his people. There's ominous mention that their real plan to humble America before this world is still in the works. So we've got that to look forward to as we switch perspective to the X-Men.
I don't have a lot to say about this. It's just messy.
Yep. Well, the X-Men are here. Speaking of messy, but they are here, flying around in what seems to be the air car they recovered from the Sentinel base. I think that's what's up there. And they're following Cerebro's trail to the UN, where it seems to be emanating from a diplomatic vehicle pulling out of the complex. Cyclops dispatches Angel out to follow the car. From above, Angel watches as the vehicle pulls into JFK Airport and its passengers depart. Now, you may have noticed that the diplomat from the UN and Shiro share the same last name. That's not without reason. Departing from the limo are the diplomat, Saburo Yoshida, his brother, and his son, one Shiro Yoshida. Which I don't know why they said that his uncle raised him, but sure. I guess Dad was busy doing politics or whatever. Angel loses the group in all the airport chaos, and he decides that he's just going to have to check every plane as it takes off. He makes to do just that when, I don't know why he didn't do it before it took off, but he finds himself caught in the suction of the jet engine, which, like a lot of engines, is effectively a giant air pump. It needs an intake, and it seems like Warren's about to be it.
Angel, you know birds die by flying next to airplanes.
You know people die by birds flying next to airplanes.
Yeah, this was a bad idea.
This was peak blonde moments from Warren Worthington. Yeah, also, one of the most dangerous times for a plane is takeoff. And yeah, ingesting foreign material is not a good thing at all. Imagine sucking in a fucking teenager.
Yeah.
I don't know that Bobby's solution is great either. From the air car apparently following alongside, Bobby blocks the engine with ice, and Jean telekinetically yoinks him out of harm's way. But I guess it's fine, as the pilots don't even seem to have realized anything has happened to one of their engines, so it's cool, I guess. I've got a lot of faith in the flight system right now. The plane continues on its way to the next stop on Mr. Yoshida's diplomatic tour, Washington, D.C. The X-Men, having read up on his schedule, have followed along, despite not knowing which plane he actually took off in, which makes that whole sequence seem really pointless. Dealing with this situation bears heavy consequences, and Scott at least seems concerned about what they may be should Cerebro's readings be right. The Yoshidas are now landed, and right before the hour of their strike, Tomo amps his nephew up once more to strike in the name of Japan. But apparently, Saburo has slipped into the room unheard, and he can't believe what his son is saying. He slaps Shiro before berating him for what he's said, and his desire to carry on old beef. But Shiro's not done just yet, only waiting. An ever-present tourist crowd stands just outside the U.S. Capitol, taking in the sights and sounds that Washington, D.C. has to offer. Among their number are Jean Grey and Scott Summers in their civilian garb. They watch as Saburo and Shiro Yoshida enter the Capitol building, but they don't know which of the party is Sunfire, apparently missing the fact that if they're following Cerebro, and it's only Saburo and Shiro, and we know where Saburo was at the time of the first attack, we should know who Sunfire is.
Well, they're teenagers.
Yeah. And there's also the fact that, they can't just be there and attack what looks to be some dude who's not doing anything.
Yeah.
So I guess that's fine. But other people have already found out that Shiro Yoshida is Sunfire, which, in their defense, he did just decide to change in a coat closet. Apparently, after the attack and all of his anger earlier, Saburo was already suspicious of his son. And when he enters the coat closet, he finally knows it to be true. Shiro decks a good old dad, but that's when Uncle Tomo shows up on the scene, ushering Sunfire to do the deed. We get a little more information on the worldview that Tomo has twisted his nephew's mind to, where he has to defend his nation's honor and how his father means well but would let this horrible attack go unavenged, and that in return he'll leave the Capitol Dome a smoking ruin. He readies to let loose his attack, but we shouldn't forget our other airborne mutant. Angel has, as usual, flown directly at him.
You gotta love the consistency with this guy.
It's not a terrible move in this case, since Shiro does need to be distracted from his goal, though I don't know if Angel knows that. But it does work, even though he gets a pair of scorched wings in return.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oof, ouch.
I know, right? Luckily, he knows a guy who's pretty good at keeping the heat off him, but now his wings are frozen up and he's just out of the fight. As a side note, I do like that Warren acknowledges that he was acting recklessly. With Iceman's intervention, though, Sunfire's attention is now turned on him. Bobby pulls up an ice shield to defend himself, and it does the job, but with unforeseen consequences, that heat plus moisture equals steam. And even though he blocks the heat ray proper, in the end the heat still gets to him as he's overcome by the steam, leaving only Cyclops and Marvel Girl to fight. Jean's ready to rumble, but Scott orders her to keep out of it for the moment, relegated to just lifting Scott off the ground to Shiro's level and tending to their fallen comrades because she's the girl.
Of course.
She and I both wish that she could be a more active part of this fight, but Jean finally caves and goes along with it. She lifts Scott up to stand precariously on the ledge along the Capitol Dome. Now with Angel and Iceman down, Sunfire readies once more to finally destroy the dome. He finally gives the blast intended to scrap heap the Capitol building, but when he does, it doesn't work. What gives? Only then does he see Cyclops standing on his precarious perch. He keeps blocking Sunfire's blast, yet again punching the fire out.
What we did, it's not yet again, because the first time was on the TV show that we were watching.
No, we've seen this earlier. He did
we?
this earlier. I don't remember when, but I know he did this.
Oh, so this is an established Cyclops power.
Yeah, he can just punch fire with his eyes, and that
Okay.
works. That makes no sense to me, but at least it's consistent.
I guess it's kind of like when you throw something on the fire and smother it.
I think that makes a certain degree of sense.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Any kind of explanation, please.
No prize for you. With his blocks, he lures Sunfire close enough to grab, apparently not having learned from Beast's lesson, but I guess he wasn't there. Sunfire grabs Psyche, ready to drop into the ground below, but luckily for Scott, Jean didn't stay out of the fight like he ordered her to. Apparently keeping watch from below, Jean yanks Sunfire's head backwards, and he drops Scott, but Jean's able to lightly cradle him down to the ground, leaving still the matter of Sunfire to deal with. Suddenly from a balcony, a voice shouts at Shiro. It's Saburo, having apparently escaped Uncle Tomo's care, and he announces that should Shiro destroy the Capitol, he'll be destroying his own father right alongside it. Shiro pleads with him to see Tomo's point of view, the point of view that he's impressed upon his nephew, but Saburo apparently knows well his brother's ambitions and how his anger over Japan's defeat has affected him. Shiro, now more tormented than ever, doesn't know what to do, but Tomo seeks to make the choice for him, and he shoots his brother point blank. And Tomo has most definitely made Sunfire's choice clear, but maybe not quite in the fashion he expected. Shiro immediately retaliates, leaving his uncle dead as he dives for his falling father, carried over the edge of the balcony by the momentum of the bullet. Down below, Shiro is full of remorse as he kneels at his dying father's side. With his last breaths, Saburo urges Sunfire to live for the future, not from the past, forge the tools of peace from the chains of war, and then he's gone. The X-Men can do nothing but look on the sad sight before leaving. But for Shiro, there is no leaving, just the smoldering wreckage of his life crashing down around him. So that was a little bit of a downer. How do we rate the Sunfire story?
That was actually really good.
Right? It's definitely, I'm going to spoil it right up, this is the best issue of this bunch.
Like, it was messy topics, but handled really well, I think, anyway.
I thought so, yeah.
Given neither of us are Japanese, so we might not have the correct perspective on this, but it seems good to me.
It seems good to me, too. Like, they're handling it as, this is an extension of Uncle Tomo's pain over it, and he's reinforced that on his nephew, just the way the horrors of war can twist you, and I think that's a good message. But again, we're not Japanese.
Yeah. Given that, honestly, I'd give it a full 5.
Nice. I'm gonna stick it as 4 because I think that finding a reason to exclude Beast is kind of contrived. 4.5, actually. I really enjoy this story. Next up is X-Men 65 from December of 1969, which means it's our last nice for a while.
Until we get there with Thor.
And we've got another shake-up on the credits. Neil Adams is back on pencils, but this time it's Roy Thomas who's gone, with, I think his name's pronounced Denny O'Neil instead of Dennis, actually, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me on it. Tom Palmer is on inks, Gene Izzo is on letters, and with Stan Lee on drums. Let's give it up, everybody, for X-Men 65.
Oh, boy.
Stan's actually editing as usual, but onward ho!
I'm thrilled.
So, the cover makes clear it's aliens, and Roy is nowhere to be found.
Aliens? No way! I never would have guessed that this guy was an alien if you hadn't told me.
No shit, right? Well, when the X-Men return home from Washington, D.C., they finally head to the mansion instead of just hanging out at Scott's apartment. Before they even get a chance to head into the house, though, they find Lorna and Alex, both suited up and very excitable over something or another. They order them to get dressed, and the X-Men are rather aggravated about being bossed around by the newbies. They're tired and crabby about the thought of having to get suited up to go fight with something else. But Lorna and Alex seem to think that this is quite urgent, and with her powers, Lorna snaps a light post from its base and uses it to pull the X-Men towards the house.
Oh my god.
This only aggravates Hank more, and he bends the lamppost into a knot. Sunburn hurting you, buddy?
When you get a really bad sunburn, you do get a little bit cranky, though.
And you're peeling, and you're warm, and it's terrible.
And it's on his fucking face, too.
Yeah, no kidding. Ouch. The frustrated X-Men begin to boil over at the newbies, and Bobby and Hank lash out. But Alex loses his temper, and he shrugs off the attack with one of his blasts, snapping at them to get inside and get ready. Crabbily they dress. Bobby and Jean are both fixated on the growing rapport between Alex and Lorna. Beast is exhausted. The years start coming and they don't stop coming. Scott is just a little crabby because his little brother ordered him around like he's the one in charge, and Scott listened.
Of course.
Angel worries that he's going to die doing this one of these days. Rather grim thoughts for a teenager, but he doesn't live the most safe life, so fair. When they arrive to hear what Alex and Lorna are so worked up about, Alex begins to explain about aliens known as the Xenox. Now, the Xenox apparently come from the Andromeda Galaxy, and they're bad news bears. They've violently made their way through the spaceways, enslaving and pillaging any alien culture they come upon. Somehow they evolved not to have any compassion, and so the race have only gotten more violent as they went. But despite their warlike tendencies, apparently their scientists are no slouch either, as they've developed a gravity transformer to transport their planet wherever they need it.
I know we've mentioned this before, but God, I hate Alex's suit.
I know. It's
the head part.
Yeah, that's the worst part of it.
I mean, the headpiece, but also the way that the face of his outfit is cut. like the weird strip that
Right,
goes
it would
up
be
the side of his
so
nose.
much better if we weren't pretending that he had a mask.
Yeah.
That isn't even doing anything. Like, even worse than the usual fucking
Domino
mask.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's so pointless. I love later when they start thickening that up and then bringing the hoops in a little closer. It's so much better. But yeah, so the Xenox, Alex is going on about aliens.
How does he know this?
Great question. He further explains that they use this method to disrupt the gravity of any target they seek to conquer, letting tidal and geological forces wreak havoc on the planet. Now, I'm no astrophysicist, but why would you want to use your home planet for this? Wouldn't it also suffer consequences about? People who know anything about this in the audience, hit us up because I'm legitimately curious. Let me know if I'm right in thinking this is as bad for the Xenox as the people they seek to conquer. Anyways, all of this to say that they should be concerned with this because the Xenox have set a course for Earth. And not just that, they're just about there. They've already deployed a ship off to the South Pole to serve as a homing beacon. We have spent an inordinate amount of time lately worried about the fucking South Pole. Now, this is quite a story to drop on something, and the X-Men think it's kind of a tall tale themselves. I'm about to get dramatic. You know that's what's up.
Oh, man. You zoomed in on a panel. I know some shit's about to happen.
They continue bickering, but as they do, Jean starts crying. Scott is fast to notice, but Jean almost seems grateful she doesn't have to keep pretending. She's not clear about just what yet, but Alex finally reveals the source of all this information and the plan to do something about it.
Oh, God.
As Professor Xavier wheels into the room.
Oh, God.
He's wheeling in like they're all supposed to just be good with this.
Oh, my God. I thought he was dead forever. No, I didn't. I knew he wasn't. Obviously, but I hoped. I can live in, like, denial.
Not anymore, you can't.
Fuck.
Scott doesn't seem to be so great about this. Understandable when your adoptive father just ollies the fuck out and lets you think he's dead for a good stretch of time.
Bobby says that the professor is boiling his brain.
Yeah, I guess he's not used to having Charles right in his fucking brain pan anymore. But Scott is also very bothered about how Jean knew and kept Xavier's survival a secret. Charles comes to Jean's defense, snapping that he'd ordered her to keep it a secret while he worked on a secret project in the sub-basement of the mansion. He couldn't have any directions, and so he decided to fake his death and leave his students reeling in its wake. It's cool, guys, I'm back now, no hard feelings, right?
Totally cool.
He then begins to explain his survival. Apparently, right before his death, he'd been just casting his thoughts out into space, as you do, and through which he learned about the Xenox invasion headed for Earth. But a certain someone comes up right behind him, security systems not making so much as a peep as he finds his way inside. So remember Changeling from the Factor 3 business?
I thought that was Mastermind.
I know, he looks a lot like Mastermind.
He looks exactly like Mastermind.
He's dressed like Mastermind. He needs to reconsider his work because you don't want to look like Mastermind.
Yeah.
He's a creep, first-class creep.
Do something else. You can look like anyone you want. Don't look like that guy.
Okay, he was around Mastermind. Maybe that's why he took his face.
Mm.
Which, I mean, I don't know if that's the best face to be wearing if you're going to see the X-Men, but maybe that's what's up here.
Maybe.
I'll no prize the thing that's not even a problem.
It's a problem for me.
Well, what the fuck ever. I don't care. It's Changeling, and he's apparently been diagnosed with a terminal disease. Impending death has caused him to reevaluate some of the deeds of his past, and he seeks to make the last days of his life count for something to make up for the things he's done. And Charles knows exactly how he can do that. He can't just order the kids to leave him the fuck alone while he works on this, no. Instead, he's going to have the Changeling pretend to be him. But there's a problem, because while Changeling might now look like Charles Xavier, he doesn't have his mental powers. Now, Charles says here that he somehow split his mental powers between Changeling and Jean, This has been retconned away and can mostly be ignored. Jean's telepathic powers are inherent, not gifted unto her. But future readings explain that the powers were too much for her to handle in her youth, so Charles erected some mental blocks to prevent her from having to deal with them before she was ready. I think it's fair to say he just removed the blocks that previously prevented her from accessing her telepathy. Now that he's as ready as he's going to be, he seeks to make his team as ready as they can be too, and he works his team hard in preparation for the Xenox attack. Yeah, we're not gonna handle Changeling just fucking died and you faked your death. We're just gonna breeze right over that. Dickhead.
Poor Changeling, like, he died and no one knew and no one cared.
It sucks, right?
Right?
If you're fucking Changeling. The X-Men, however, are not the only ones who have noticed the Xenox incursion on Earth. A SHIELD helicarrier soars through the skies, making for the scouting ship down below. They unleash fighter planes on the Xenox, but they're no match for the aliens who quickly blow the pilots out of the sky. But with the attack sprung, Charles now knows he can't delay anymore. It's now or never. By Charles's wording, this may well be a suicide mission. He doesn't expect the X-Men to stop the Xenox, but they can buy time. Something I expect Xavier has factored into his plan. He also apparently made a fucking rocket, which blasts the X-Men off planet, assumedly bound for Antarctica. Hey, it's the Cold War. What could go wrong with an unexpected rocket launch?
Boy, I just can't think of anything.
Down at the South Pole, S.H.I.E.L.D. has apparently not stopped trying to attack the Xenox, and when they see another craft headed their way, they expect it's yet another attack from the helicarrier. They blow it out of the sky, but something else keeps coming. So apparently this thing is just a Russian nesting doll of rockets. So every time they blast one of the rockets away, there's another smaller rocket inside of it that keeps going.
I'm not sure that's how anything works. I feel like if you blow it up, that's gonna have some impact on the inner layers.
Wrong. Now on the tiniest of rockets, the X-Men have made landfall.
Fantastic.
They depart the landing craft, only to find some kind of giant monster blocking their path. I want to say right now, this monster is not Mr. Adam's finest work.
No. No, it's not. It's not great.
It just looks like he was trying to draw another dinosaur man, but badly. It's got like a dude face.
Yeah, a really weirdly proportioned dude face and scales that look like body hair.
Yeah, it's a bad look.
And like a creature from the Black Lagoon head comb.
Yeah, it's fucking dumb.
It's really bad.
Well, there's alien fighting to get to, and so the X-Men get to work. Meanwhile, the Xenox plan begins to roll into action. Earthquakes have begun to rack the planet, and scientists know full well why. That's no moon, that's why. No, it's a planet the size of Pluto headed right for Earth.
Pluto isn't a planet.
Well, it was at this point, so fuck you.
Fair enough, I suppose.
The Xenox down below, too, celebrate their imminent victory. They see the X-Men's attack as the last gulp of resistance coming their way. And soon they'll be able to conquer Earth's people and take them captive. The X-Men are not to be counted out, though, as a report comes through that they've dispatched the guard beast in their path. Xenox soldiers flood the area, and the X-Men do as they've been instructed to, fighting a hopeless battle meant only to buy the planet time. The time that Charles Xavier needs to put the last phase of his plan into action.
You notice there's a theme with the naming conventions of Marvel aliens where they do this thing where they have like a single consonant and then an apostrophe and then the rest of the name.
I have noticed that before, but now I'm struggling.
All of the scrolls, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that is really kind of how their names go.
The
Klurt. Good old Klurt.
The Kree aren't exactly that, but they are another one of those, like, two-part names.
I guess the only difference I see is, like, with the Skrulls, that's, like, part of their name. They aren't, like, the Skrulls.
Right.
Whereas with the Xenox, that's just, like, their whole race.
Well, yeah, all I'm saying is that they really like using that convention for naming aliens.
It makes it sound very foreign.
Right.
Scary. Very fantasy sci-fi.
Right.
In a very impressive feat of telepathy, Charles reaches out over the planet, searching the population for helpful minds towards his cause. Good people, hearts not full of hate but compassion. And he creates a single mind from the lot of them. Somehow, Lorna helps in directing Charles's thoughts towards the X-Men. I didn't know magnets worked on thought waves, but sure.
Hey, the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm,
They picked up the phone for once.
Yep. They didn't have an option to hang up. Charles didn't allow that.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Crystal's here.
I see that.
Just hanging out, but I think she does hang out with the Fantastic Four sometimes. That sounds right. You thought we weren't going to see the Inhumans until next time? Nope, they're here now. Or one of them is. However that worked, he now has mental contact with his X-Men. Jean captures Xavier's thoughts, blasting them at Havoc, who apparently blasts his brother, and it's Scott that delivers an optic blast onto the surface of the Xenox homeworld, even as Bobby pushes out enough ice as he can to try and keep his friend cooled down enough to make it.
The implication here is that Alex blasting Scott is absorbing that energy into Scott's eye punches.
Yeah, I don't know why...
That's not how anything has ever worked.
I don't know why telepathy to Magnet to telepathy to Havoc to Scott is the combination we needed for this.
I
don't understand how the telepathy continues being telepathy when Alex is blasting his brother with it.
Right.
I don't understand how any of this works, frankly.
This is a weird plan.
Yeah. Apparently, through this, Professor X has directed the goodwill and love of humanity into the minds of the hateful Xenox who know none of these things. They're not used to this sort of resistance, and they can't handle this onslaught of good vibes, something they never planned for.
The vibes. They're beautiful.
All they want now is to get as far away as they can, probably back to 4chan. And so, at this last moment, the Xenox beat it on out of there. Finally, the X-Men are able to break off the onslaught as Charles breaks away from the good people of the world as he wishes good upon them in turn. His deeds done, Charles Xavier collapses out of his chair. Lorna fearing that this time he really is dead, which would actually be hilarious. If they thought he was dead all this time, he showed up one issue and then, actually died again.
That would be amazing. I would love that. Unfortunately, I feel it is not to be.
It is not to be. Because he's still alive for now. But the X-Men don't know about this just yet. They're just taking off for home, just as a Xenox landing force blow up their vessel. This is one of the better alien stories we've had from the X-Men, but that's not saying much.
This felt like an episode of Doctor Who.
You know? I can see it.
Yeah.
It works better. This was stupid. I don't mind Charles being back so long as he does something interesting, but
yeah,
revealing that you were just hiding in the basement because you didn't want to tell the kids to quiet down is a lot.
Yeah.
If Scott's already going to be running the team, just tell Scott, hey, manage this shit maybe? But no? So how did you feel about that one? How are we ranking that?
3 out of 5, I guess. That feels a little high, but I don't really want to go to 2.
Yeah,
so.
I think it feels a little high too, but I'm going with 2.5.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
There were some nice panels in there from Mr. Adams.
Except for that monster.
Except for that fucking monster.
The bad monster.
That monster was so bad. Some of the aliens even looked really cool, but not that fucking monster.
Yeah. Hey, it's the Hulk.
Yep. I would say that I think we had a better issue with Roy without Neil than Neil without Roy.
Mm-hmm.
No worries. Roy is back once more with X-Men 66 from January of 1970. That's right, we've broken into a new decade here with the X-Men.
No longer nice.
No, it's the grimy 70s. As I said, Roy Thomas is back on writing duties, but Neil Adams is gone once more, replaced by Sal Buscema, who is actually another one of my favorites.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, considering the length of his work with Marvel, I suspected that this had to be pretty early in his comic career, and it does seem to be. So I went looking for this, and I came upon this wonderful quote about his job interview with Stan Lee that I just had to share because I loved it.
Okay.
He asked me to come on up to New York, which I did, and I went through the most fantastic interview of my life. Stan was leaping on his chair and his desk just to relate to me physically what he wanted on a comic book page. It was fascinating and it was charming all at the same time. He made the sound effects the whole 9 yards. He demonstrated every other way he could possibly demonstrate what he wanted on those pages. The dynamics and so on. I love the passion.
I love stories about Stan. They're always amazing. Like, he was just so in love with the medium, and it really shows.
The fucking passion. He's up there jumping around on his desk. I love it.
I love him. Miss you, Stan.
Rest in peace. So anyways, closing out the lineup, we have Sam Granger on inks and Artie Simek on letters for this. Our last issue of X-Men for quite a while before we go to reprints. The X-Men have finally returned home from their journey to the South Pole, but they're greeted by an upsetting sight. Charles Xavier, comatose and still as he lay in his bed. Lorna, who we must remember is the one who was by his side when he collapsed, is overcome by the whole situation, and she falls into Alex's arms as she weeps. And with the stress of the situation, the whole Alex-Bobby-Lorna love triangle has finally boiled over.
This isn't the time.
Right. I do think that Bobby thinks this is more of a love triangle than Alex or Lorna think.
Yeah. I mean, Lorna literally did tell Jean before, I am not Bobby's girl.
Yeah. She's said this multiple times, I feel like.
Yeah.
I think she's been more than clear about that. But Iceman drives an ice spike between the two of them, and Bobby and Alex are now about to thump their hands on their chests like fucking caveman. Girl mine! No girl mine!
Oh, God.
Scott has no patience for this, though, and he blasts the floor between the two, ordering them to cut it out, because what we needed was a fucking hole in the floor. Lorna's more than happy to agree with her new beau's older brother, and I really feel for the girl having to put up with these two constantly bickering over her and ignoring her thoughts on the matter. Though, to Alex's credit, I guess he's kind of defending her thoughts on the matter, but in an overly machismo way. The boys cool off a bit, even though Scott looks more than ready to continue with their dressing down. He doesn't get the chance, though. Hank interrupts him, remembering one of Charles's gadgets, the Mind Probe. This is apparently a whole new device based off the work of Hank Pym, and not one of his collection of other similar gadgets. Hank finds it in the cellar and gives Chucky's noggin a probin'. The strain only further taxes Xavier's system. He awakens enough to cry out something about having to get to the Hulk before it's too late. The X-Men pull the plug on the machine, worried over Xavier's condition, but he just drifts back into his coma. Scott wonders, though, if Jean might not be able to manage this a little more safely than the machine, which he probably should have thought of before, but she tries now. She, too, tries to reach the professor, but the only response she can get from Xavier is an image of, yet again, the Hulk. They puzzle over the matter before Scott wonders if it isn't Bruce Banner they're trying to get in touch with, rather than the Hulk. Alex and Lorna stay behind to protect the professor as the X-Men start on their new mission to find the Hulk. Sans Bobby, who is still possessed by that green-eyed monster of jealousy. Apparently, the newscasts have reported some kind of Hulk incident in Las Vegas, and so the X-Men have had little trouble finding him.
Do you think they have, like... You remember when we were kids and they had, like, the terrorism warning scale?
Yeah.
Do you think they have that for the Hulk? But it's just different shades of green?
God.
Today, the Hulk warning is forest green.
Today, we're at a light seafoam.
Ooh, that's not bad.
Yeah, we haven't spotted the Hulk in a while. And when we did, he seemed smart, so it's probably cool.
It's probably fine.
I'm sorry, we are at a lime green. I repeat, we are at a lime green, DEFCON 1. The Hulk is beating down the door with 2 tanks.
Yeah.
And we're only the radio station.
He's coming to make us stop talking about him.
So the X-Men have found the Hulk, but the problem is not generally finding the Hulk. That's usually pretty easy. Mm-hmm. And we can already see Warren angling to beat his friends down there.
That's a bad idea, Warren.
It's a very bad idea.
Very bad idea.
Angel finds the Hulk pretty quickly, but for once he's actually sensible enough to think maybe I should wait for my friends to deal with this.
So it takes the Hulk to do that.
It takes the fucking Hulk to do that.
Oh my god.
But the Hulk sees a masked superhero coming for him, and he's like, okay, y'all back on your bullshit again, huh? I'm not gonna wait on you to attack. And with a mighty sonic clap of his hands, he knocks Angel out of the air, momentarily stunned. The one time he decides to wait for his friends, this is what happens. Cyclops tries to catch the Hulk's attention, insisting that there's no reason that they need to fight, which probably would have gone over better had Beast not just moments before decided to kick the Hulk in the chest.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, I handled it backwards for a reason.
Yeah, I get it. For the reveal, the prestige.
Yes. Well, Hulk is mad now, and he doesn't trust the X-Men, suspecting them of being in league with his enemies and looking to capture him. Hulk doesn't take kindly to that sort of thing, and is about to let the X-Men know it, as he rips up a street lamp to use as a club. Cyclops does what he can, opening up full bore at the Hulk, but all it does is slow the not-so-jolly green giant down. Inch by inch, he forces his way towards Marvel Girl and Cyclops, even as Jean now directs her not insignificant telepathic powers towards the Hulk as well. I don't know why you waited to do this, Jean. He's nearly to the pair when Jean's efforts finally force the Hulk to collapse, crashing through a wall. Half inside the building and half out, the Hulk begins to shrink and loses green hue. And a few moments later, a very tired and confused Dr. Banner sits up. Scott immediately gets to questioning him, but it probably would have been better to get him out of there first and ask questions later, as when the X-Men look to the street, they find themselves staring down the barrels of tanks and American soldiers, one Major Talbot at their head. Y'all didn't stop to think why the Hulk was in trouble?
Why the Hulk is happening? Because there's generally a reason.
No shit! Talbot demands to the X-Men to step out of the way and let the army take Banner into custody. The X-Men try to explain the situation, that they're searching to save one Charles Xavier's life. Last time around, the still groggy and confused Dr. Banner didn't recognize the name, but suddenly hearing it again sparks a memory. Banner remembers how he and Charles worked on a treatment for mental exhaustion using, of course, gamma rays.
Sure.
I would say only in the 60s would we get a plot where they seek to use radiation to cure headaches, but it's the 70s now. Come on, people. And what's better, Banner knows where the device is in one of his secret labs. The X-Men are delighted to hear that and urge Banner to take them to the lab, apparently forgetting about the whole "the army is here to capture the Hulk" thing. The army, though, has not forgotten the whole "army is here to capture the Hulk" thing. Talbot's not going to just let them run off with the Hulk, and so he ushers his soldiers forth to capture Banner before he gets a chance to transform into the Hulk. Despite himself, Bruce begins to change once more, even as he pleads against it, knowing that a man's life hangs in the balance. But it's too late. He's big and green, and he crushes a tank like it's nothing, and then tells the army and the X-Men both to fuck off and leave him alone, bounding off once more into the desert.
That's just what he does. He jumps through the desert.
And
that's his thing.
He says fuck off and jumps off into the desert.
Yep, that's basically his entire deal.
Unless you stop him from jumping off into the desert.
Right.
Then you got a world of hurt and a smashed up tank. I also love that Scott refers to the Hulk's jumping as thooming.
What now?
He calls it thooming. If you zoomed off one more time.
Wow. I mean, that is the sound effect they put on it.
I know. It's so funny to me, though. The Hulk finally stops angrily jackrabbiting across the desert when he spots our heroes, and so they set down. By the time they land, though, the Hulk is no longer on the ground, having jumped atop a giant mesa. The Hulk hefts a giant slab of rock up over his head. Angel tries to distract him into hurling it his way, but Hulk completely ignores Warren, instead choosing to chunk it at the other three for having followed him. Jean and Scott have got the whole giant boulder situation well in hand, though, with an optic blast and a telekinetic shield. Beast, meanwhile, ambles his way up the side of the mesa while the Hulk is preoccupied with his friends, readying to hurl another boulder down below. With this golden chance, he runs up and kicks the Hulk over the ledge from behind, in the hopes that if he hits hard enough, he'll revert to Banner once more.
That's not generally how it works, but points for trying, I guess.
I mean, it's not like they've really fought the Hulk much, so sure.
True.
Well, the Hulk does crash down to Earth and hit hard, but a little harder than Beast expected, and he's quickly buried by a shower of stones as the blow causes an avalanche to crash down upon him. Hank stares down below in horror. After all, if Hulk changed to Banner like he hoped, then something terrible has just happened.
Good job, Beast. You really thought that one through. You're supposed to be the smart one here.
But the horror doesn't last long. Soon the rocks begin to shift and tremble and then burst apart, revealing the Hulk, angrier than ever. But behind him, in the hole left behind by the avalanche, the X-Men spot Dr. Banner's secret lab. Well, you know, the Hulk isn't a big fan of puny Banner, and the more the X-Men talk about him, the more pissed off he gets. And he throws quite a temper tantrum at the X-Men. While his friends keep the Hulk ready, though, Warren slips inside the lab, searching for the device. Outside, angered by being held off by the youngsters, the Hulk smashes the very earth beneath them. Jane and Scott begin to tumble back into the growing crevasse caused by the attack, but in the nick of time, Beast grabs them, hanging from a ladder on their air car. I don't know when he had time to get into it, but sure.
Yeah, great question.
Angel reunites with his friends, letting them know he's got the goods, and the X-Men make a clean getaway from the Hulk, who, to be fair, wanted just that, for them to fuck off. They suspect that Banner somehow directed the Hulk to take them just where they needed to go to save Xavier's life. And together they've managed just that. With the press of a button, the X-Men shoot radiation into Xavier's brain to make it all better.
They got rid of his headache.
And it works.
Aww.
And then the X-Men lived happily ever after. No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
How did you feel about the Hulk story?
It was not good. 2 out of 5.
See, I thought it was good, dumb fun at a 3.5 out of 5.
It has been a while since we had a guest star.
Since the Avengers, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I mean, minus the quick showing of Wanda and Pietro, but that felt more natural in an X-Men comic because they started there.
Yeah.
Now, I've got to give a note on what we're going to be doing with this going forward because the X-Men are going to be on hiatus for like 5 real-life years. But they don't go away entirely, they're just relegated to guest appearances for a while. I'm going to try and dig into the more significant ones and pass on the ones that I either hate or are not really all that useful or at least fun. But this does mean we're going to take a massive jump in time ahead of where Thor is. Don't worry, he'll catch up eventually once the X titles start branching, but we're going to have a while where we're significantly ahead of Thor stories. And that's just what it's going to have to be.
That's going to get messy at some point.
Yeah, it's going to get messy whenever we get to fucking Mutant Massacre.
Yeah, if not sooner.
Yeah.
We'll deal with it when it comes.
Yep, so next time we're going to be back with Kazar and Angel.
Well, next time we're going to be back with Thor.
Well, yeah, next time on the X-Men.
Okay.
We're going to be back with more fucking Kazar.
More fucking Kazar.
And Angel flying headfirst into stupid shit.
Yeah.
We'll see. Anyway, that's going to be it for us this week. We thank you for joining us. Any of you astrophysicists out there, if you want to shoot us an email about what the gravitational effects would be on the Xenox home planet using its gravity to fuck up Earth's gravity and how well that would fare for the Xenox, hit us up, comicsplaining@gmail.com. You can also find us on Tumblr, Twitter, or Facebook. If you want to support the show, we have a Patreon. Patrons get access to the show a day earlier. With other tiers, there are higher perks. So, go ahead and join us over there if you really like. We also have a coffee. If you want to see a video version of the show, go ahead and watch us over on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and hit the fucking bell button. If you want to talk to us, even if you're not an astrophysicist, join us over on Discord, where none of us are astrophysicists, so we'll just go with what feels right until we hear otherwise.
We'd like to apologize for any sound issues this episode. We're still working out our new equipment.
Yeah, but we do have memory, so that's nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
We're going to be back next week with Thor, and we look forward to talking to you then. Bye.
Bye.